And that's the part actually excited me, as much as, of course, then it comes to the point is like, if you could solve that problem more elegantly versus you want to have a pragmatic solution that out there that you need to deliver tomorrow for your customer, for your internal or external customer. So that's the part. It's a delicate balance. Like, in academia, you can do a little bit more rigor, better, more, but
Hi there, you are listening to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. My guests and myself share our entrepreneurial journey and our methods for a balanced life. And I'm joined here today by Reeto. Reeto, thank you for joining. I'd love if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So I'm Reeto Mookherjee, co-founder and CEO of Angler AI. First-time founder, technical founder, 2.5 years into the journey of building Angler. Before that, I was within operating brands and other startups. Classically trained as data scientist before data science was a thing. So PhD in operational research more than 20 years ago, and have been working with the brands in the retail, online travel, B2B, SaaS, then went back to retail, media and entertainment, healthcare tech. So got touch across different companies and profiles, and building data solutions for them, for marketing and, product teams. So site personalization all the way to paid media acquisition. We saw an opportunity in after Apple's privacy changes. Of course, that's not a news anymore. In 2020, we saw an opportunity from consumer brands that are all struggling with the new privacy landscape. And is there an opportunity for AI and permission data to build this better, targeting and measurement apparatus in the new normal of heightened privacy security? So that was our mission. We jumped on this journey, me and my co-founder, 2.5 years ago, and going on since then. Learned a lot. We are at seed stage, and working with customers and providing value and getting more customers.
Excellent. And sort of what does a customer look like for you in the new business?
Sure. I mean, customers are, in a way that any brand that spends, any consumer facing brands that, even though part of our solution also works for B2B, but most, for all practical purposes, we are B2C or consumer focused brands. So think of a omni retail or direct to consumer brands or subscription brands, or they're spending money to acquire customers, acquire next customer, new customer, high value new customers, and using is spending their media, working media in Meta, Google Ads, Snap, TikTok, Pinterest, all the walled gardens and outside. So that's kind of our sweet spot. So those sort of brands are our target customers, where we bring in efficiency in their paid media spend.
Great. And talk to a little bit, you gave a little taste there, but talk to us a little bit more about your journey and what's taken you to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think my career, I've been accidentally ended up in the industry. So my history is I was almost all set to become a faculty. I PhD in operations research, worked on game theory. I really enjoyed, and this was like talking about 2004, 2006. So before big data was a thing, before and the public level of data source was very limited. And while I was in the program, I wanted to always building an econometric model and game theory model, but it'll be so much powerful if we could train those theory and models on actual data. So I reached out to one of the largest airlines at that point, and for some synthetic data, they ended up sending me an internship offer. They said, you are more than welcome to work here as an intern, but we cannot share any data, even the synthetic data. That's a problem. So I got there are some public data available for electric power. So, that my PhD work gave me exposure to various classes of problems while I'm working on one, theoretical problem, which was awesome. So I love that experience on, that publicly available data. It was federal, NSF funded it, went to NSF to present it. Some practitioners, met with practitioners. It's like, this is cool. They're really making stuff actionable and useful for it. So that got me thinking. But I know I pursued on my academic track because that's what I've been publishing. I had good recommendations, so I went through the full spectrum. I ended up getting few offers. In fact, accepted one of the offers from Texas A&M, go and teach an industrial engineering department. So then I realized I was all set. So then I was like, wouldn't it be great if I could continue that real data exploration a little bit longer? So I said, I reached out to the department chair and said, hey, would it be okay if would you reconsider me in a year? Then they were like, sure. They were very kind, and she said, listen, you should explore what you think you should do before, and then come back. You can always come back, and we'll probably be hiring as well, and we'd love to have you on the team. So that point I joined a company called Profit Logic. They're a retail markdown optimization company startup. We got acquired by Oracle, and so with an intention that I'll stay in the practitioners world for a year, and then I'll go back. Fast forward 19 years, I never went back to academia. So you can safely assume that offer has expired. And but so that's how we ended up in the practitioner world. And we are in the practitioner all trying to, we have bag of tricks and trying to find applied problems where our tools and tricks will solve the problem. And that's the part actually excited me, as much as, of course, then it comes to the point is like, if you could solve that problem more elegantly versus you want to have a pragmatic solution that out there that you need to deliver tomorrow for your customer, for your internal or external customer. So that's the part. It's a delicate balance. Like, in academia, you can do a little bit more rigor, better, more, but that's the delicate balance. But that's a trade-off, I would say. But that's the part I really love being a part, early part in the career. And then as I got more from individual contributor to having a team, building the team, then became that internal consultant that always selling, always making sure the solutions is there, how you build the trust and relationship. End of the day, people buy analytical solution, people really buy, the essentially you have to build the relationship and trust then before they do it. And then, so that's the part always been a fun and interesting and challenge. And while the landscape also changed, the technology improvement and enhancement and all the new technology, new toys coming out and always. So what the part I always enjoyed is one thing is, you're going to have a team you manage, but also having a hands-on part of it, so I'm not obsolete, or I'm not talking about too much at the level that, but I have no idea how the sausage is made. I need to have some appreciation and some deep understanding of how the sausage is made so that I can find a better recipe for the next sausage being made. So
You've definitely got a passion for what you do.
thank you.
Can hear it in the way you talk about it. That's great. And tell us a little bit about what family means to you.
Yeah. So family is at the center of, so I am very blessed that I have my wife. She's in completely different field, and she's in. I would say she's the real scientist in a way that she solves, real world hunger and world curing disease. Really, she works for in the pharma industry as well. And and we have twins, boy and girl twins. So that's and I'm an immigrant. So I also have my family, and both our families are our parents are back in India. I grew and raised in India. So, so for us, it's like, of course, we have made family here, people we are not related by blood, but we're also extended part of the family. That's and also we have people, back in, half a half a globe away that we spend half of our life with, and that side. And then now the remaining half we're building, and more than that, we're building in this part. And so it's an extension. We are incredibly grateful for having a support system, through the extended family, the new family in this adopted country, in there. Yeah, very count our blessings that way.
And how old are the twins?
They're 11.
11. Wow. About to enter teenage.
Yes, so looking forward to.
It's mine are 19 and 22 now. Mine definitely grow up. I remember when they were 11. It was a long time ago. What do you like to do for health? Whether that's mental health, physical health, nutrition, sort of what's that mean for you?
Yeah, so health wise, I mean, and I would say, you know, this is the area definitely I could use some help. Ever since I've become a founder, I think it's a I'm trying to make more delicate balance in terms like the time to take for the stuff away from work and just before that, the whole lockdown and pandemic and our separation of work life or weave into the nights and weekends and everything. It's just a very new different situation. So for me is I would say I usual stuff, exercise, on this thing, some diet. I'm managing some of my own kind of chronic health problems as well, so through that exercise. And I would say I'm incredibly lucky to have network of supports, mentors, and also I can talk to people when I need help. The founder journey is incredibly lonely. Also gets and you're making decision for a lot of people depend on you, all the way from investor to people you work with, you work for. People who work for you and others. So I'm incredibly grateful that I have network of mentors, and I think when it comes to mental health and all those things in there is like people pay that tuition. So this you know let's get there, that let's learn from their tuition, the knowledge, so that I don't make the same mistake. I make different mistake. But let me make the different mistake, not the same mistake that other have made.
Yeah, I think it's working out what works for you. I think health is an important part of the journey. It took me probably later in life to really learn how important health is. But I'm a big believer in not sort of longevity, as in I'm not looking to live forever, but that health span. So making sure that you're healthy until you die. And I think that comes from building those healthy habits, finding that sort of balance along those lines. And that's no one's ever perfect, but it's about finding that balance that works for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And what do you like to do for fun?
Well, for um, when I had more spare time, I was photography was my passion. And I'm talking about in my undergrad, and this is before digital, you know, camera and everything. We used to do uh, the dark room technology for black and white print all the way to exposure control manually and things like that. Then you know digital SLR came and make that thing like commodity. Really not, but we migrated. But then we migrated from there to iPhone came, and it's like everyone is a great photographer until they are not. So the photography is still my passion. If I get some time, I do that, and not so much on the development side, of course, but the good shooting and it takes a lot of time. And if you're serious about that, it's there. Uh, and otherwise, we like to travel, and both me and my wife, and actually one of my son is also, we are foodies. Daughter not so much, but we like to explore. So we'll drive, maybe 2 hours for a good meal, and then come back. And that's it's a hole in the wall places, and LA is great. So landmass is so huge, and food landscape is so changing. So we always find interesting, some things to explore and things. And whenever we travel, that's a good part of our our travel.
Nice. I'm not sure LA is really a town. People think of it as a town. I think it's more of a county. Which sort of side of LA are you?
We are in northern part of LA, so Thousand Oaks in there. So yeah, absolutely right. When someone asks where you're from, and where are you living? I said, and I'm in LA, and LA landmass is bigger than Rhode Island, actually, if you think of it. So it's
Yeah, when I used to live in LA, now I'm a digital nomad, so I'm sort of all over the world. But I used to live in LA, and I always started off by saying LA. And then I realized people don't picture LA as what it really is. So I started saying Santa Monica, which was actually close to where I lived,
uh-huh.
and was a much better, accurate sort of description of where I lived. Whereas LA, like right now, I'm staying in LA downtown. Well, that's nothing like, you couldn't compare downtown LA with the west side of LA or with, like where you are. So yeah, it's all very different. It's a strange town because yeah, it's not really a town. It's a county. And how do you stop working? Can you stop working? Obviously, you have a passion for what you do, but are you able to switch off?
Well, I mean, I think the completely switch off has been hard, and I mean, in terms of, I think the being present when I'm trying to do, in the moment, if I'm in an event and, with the kids and those sort of things, I try to be present and there. But I think the part of this is, even though I'm not working, work is different thing, right? I was just thinking about it, and I'm doing stuff, sending an email, drafting a activity, and there's a mental thinking activity that's very hard to completely switch off, because many times you get some of the ideas or the sparks when you're in that mode, when you're actually and it every person is different. But for me, is many of the things that happened in my professional career when I was not actually in that activity mode, but I was on doing something else. But some of the things, that these things happen, and then of course you need to follow that through. We need to do this, many things won't work, and all of these things. So that's why it's very hard for me to completely switch off. But to a point, is like, if I'm in a kids event, and I try to be present there, and not trying to think about anything else at that point. But I think I'm incredibly lucky that the team we have at Angler is, it's very, I mean, supportive. I mean, I do have, being a, my parents and other ways. I mean, last year itself, I actually make two and multiple unplanned trips to India because of health issues and others. And at that point, I was not the team handled it. And I was, so a lot of things could wait, and then all those things. But so that also gives me a discipline that it's actually okay that if I don't check that email, or that email can wait for until the next morning. It's okay. I don't need to be responding, jump right in, to do that. But
And what has been a pivotal moment in your life? I always love diving into this one with people, whether that be your personal life, your business life, both, a pivotal moment for you.
I would say I mean, my career wise, obviously, I think the decision that I made, that I was talking about, that, you know, uh, and when I was graduating, that the decision I made to, not going to that one path, or I thought I'm delaying that path, and explore the other piece, let's transform my professional career. If I didn't do that, I don't think I'll ever have done that, and I'll have probably a very different, or unless if I hadn't gotten that tenure, then yes, I'll come back to the, and this things like, well, I tried it didn't work, now I'm coming back, I have to make a living, so let's go to become a practitioner. But uh, that was pretty, I think it's a pivotal moment for my professional career. And then I think the also, a lot of these things that in my career that happened, I said two other pivotal moments. Like when I didn't plan to come to US for grad studies. I was actually, I was doing engineering in India, and I was gonna, I know, in my mind I was like, I will be doing higher studies, in India, and I'll build it, because my family commitment was, I mean, I'm the only child, and having the my parents are there, and that's like India, and the social norms and everything, and the kind of in there. So that was my planning. Then accidentally I went to a conference, and I met someone who was doing here, and he's talking about all the amazing opportunity, universities in US, and he's talking about Singapore as well, that offered him. that he didn't have it back there in India in IITs. So that was like, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I could pursue that, or I could pursue that. So I wrote GRE, and I was like, well, let me apply. Maybe they will never give me a financial aid, so I won't be able to pursue it because I couldn't fund it myself, or my family couldn't fund it. I lucky enough I got full funding from multiple places. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Then okay, let's pursue. Then that's another thing. Out of I didn't plan for it; it just happened, and then I decided at that point that I'm going to pursue it. Uh, abandon that path I had in my head, and then I went to the different path. Coming to the even startup world, I would say I always had an itch for doing something, like starting my own. And I also knew if that day come, who I'm gonna work with. So my current co-founder, he and I worked at from my first job, 19 years plus. We worked at 4 different companies before founding Angler, and we knew how we work together. And, he and I worked together either in a management reporting structure wise, or he's my peers. So we knew we had the chemistry, and we complement each other. And the journey would be rough, and you need to have this understanding. You need to have people you can trust. Not always you'll be agreeing, but when your disagreement comes, then you're making an informed decision on two of you together, based in this. So we knew that, but we were not sure what that problem could be. And almost like, and people have said, a lot of things I've written about, well, it doesn't matter what the idea is, you need to find that you need to do something, start something, and you'll see where it takes it. And I was not sold. I was like, I have to have that idea in my head that this is exactly what we're going to build. Otherwise, where are you going to start? I mean, and being in corporate, within operating brands, that's the you know that's the part. And I was trained on. I was like, well, when you think about project, you need to know where the project starting point is, right? I mean, how do I know? So finally, I mean, I was talking to and I was my last company, and we're advising a lot of through that company with they're owned by a PE firm. Now they're publicly traded. So the PE firm introduced me to the many of the portfolio companies as an advisor. So I was talking to like a dozen or so companies and saw a pattern in there. And we were like, that's interesting. Like we have solved. We're incredibly lucky that we're able to solve this type of problem in my current role. But before we solve it, someone had to trust us to write a check, to go build it. And so these companies need someone, and we haven't seen that person yet in those companies working there. Of course, there are other pieces of people, but you need some certain skill sets, certain expertise, certain people, technology, processes. All things comes together, then you can do that. And it's we know it's hard, but we know we have also done that. So is there a theory? So ultimately, when we left or decided to do it, it was still an idea in the head. Sorry, not a concrete idea. It's more like we have done this. Looks like this could work, and then we have it's a founder market fit at that point. And then we were like, well, will anyone invest on a piece of PowerPoint? Without any code being written, because we couldn't write any code because we're still working for someone else, and we didn't want avoidance of any doubt and anything. We didn't want to start anything. It's like, or maybe we'll drop and we'll bootstrap it a little bit and then there. But sure enough, people lined up to say, hey, well, yeah, this looks interesting, and it's like, you have done it. So finally when we finally launched it, it was not a concrete idea. It's like, hey, we have been doing this, we have seen success, and this looks like it. Let's now talk to people who are having similar problem. Can we get their data, and can we see if we can help them in a way? So that's how our journey started.
Wow. And if you look at balance, which I sort of like to think of a balanced life as that sort of center line between the ups and the downs, because nothing's ever permanently in balance. But how does a balanced life look for you?
And now it's, well, I mean, in my since the startup life, it's a lot of ups and downs. So in a way that there are successes, and then not so good news, or something didn't work, something the customer we thought they're gonna give us a chance, the project get delayed, a lot of different things. I think Like if we zoom in, every day, there could be pluses and minuses. You see very bumpy. But if you zoom out, you're gonna see the trend is probably the trend is it trending in the right direction. Of course, there is a lot of oscillation, jaggedness, and in the startup world, the jaggedness is because you're much shorter feedback cycle, and versus if I'm working for a bigger entity, I'm small part of a bigger wheel, and so I may not see all the response. By the time it filters into me, it looks pretty smooth, and so I think that's how I'm looking at, I definitely in this journey, I appreciate small wins, whatever small is, much more now than what I used to, because and then I also look at the in a zoomed out view, like where we were 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Are we moving, heading to the right direction? Of course, if I look into every day, every week, it may look like, well, there's a setback, or there is not so good, or there is a bumpy, yes, that's the so I'm trying to look at that way.
A piece of advice you could give to an aspiring entrepreneur? One piece of advice.
I would say like the advice a lot of people gave me before I jumped on my own entrepreneurial journey, that there is no right time. Now is the right time, and if you're passionate about it, you do it, and what you start doing, it is not may not be the one you ended up doing. So it's starting something matters. And the other piece is, I would say, in terms of, and of course, my journey is merely started, and and it's a sample size of one, and I'm not a serial entrepreneur yet. And but at the same time, it's like, be always surround yourself with your network. The people will come from many many places that you do not even know that exist. But you also need to ask you need to frame the right way, what exactly more clarity you have in your head, what help you need, and other people. You'll be able to segment your network, and you'll be able to talking to the people, and then the people will also be able to help you much clearly. That's the you know that I would say, it's incredible grateful for the network that we have, and network is the net worth. And it's so true in today's day.
Thank you for sharing that. And how can people find you?
We have website, getangler.ai. That's our website. And I know I'm also in LinkedIn. Reeto Mookherjee is my LinkedIn handle. And my email is reeto@getangler.ai. REETO.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Of course,
And,
thank you for having me.
and thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.